Welcome back to Influencer Clips. The legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni has officially moved into the courtroom. On February 3, 2025, attorneys representing both parties attended a pre-trial hearing in federal court, marking the first in-person confrontation since their legal dispute escalated. The session, overseen by Judge Louis J. Lyman, set the tone for what promises to be one of the most high-profile Hollywood lawsuits in recent years. During the hearing, Judge Lyman firmly cautioned both legal teams against engaging in a media war that could taint the jury pool and affect the trial's fairness. His warning comes after months of public back and forth between Lively and Baldoni's camps, with both parties using media outlets and online platforms to support their respective claims. "The courtroom is where we resolve disputes," Judge Lyman stated, urging both parties to refrain from public statements that could sway public opinion before the trial even begins. He emphasized that the court would not tolerate attorneys weaponizing the media to gain leverage outside the judicial process. This warning was particularly relevant given the numerous leaked text messages, voice recordings, and legal documents that have surfaced in recent weeks, many of which were published on a website Baldoni launched in an attempt to clear his name. Lively's legal team has strongly opposed the release of these materials, accusing Baldoni of trying to manipulate the narrative and portray himself as the victim. Inside the courtroom, the hearing was tense as attorneys for both sides traded barbs. Lively's legal team reiterated that Baldoni's use of the website, where he publicly released private conversations and text messages, was a direct attempt to intimidate their client. They have since filed motions requesting a gag order to prevent further disclosures, arguing that such public releases could contaminate potential jurors and derail the trial's integrity. Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, pushed back against these claims, stating that his client has the right to defend himself against what he calls false and career-damaging accusations. He contended that the text messages Baldoni published offer critical context that the media has ignored, and therefore, his client was within his rights to share them with the public. Judge Lyman did not immediately rule on the gag order request, but he did make it clear that if both sides continued their aggressive public relations battle, he would consider moving up the trial date, a move that could force both parties to prepare much sooner than expected. In an effort to maintain some level of control over the highly publicized case, the judge also ordered both legal teams to submit a protective order outlining how sensitive evidence will be handled. This is a critical measure, given that both sides have access to text messages, emails, and potential video recordings that could impact the case's outcome. A protective order would mean that certain evidence remains confidential until it is presented in court, limiting further leaks to the media. This is particularly relevant given Baldoni's lawsuit against the New York Times, as his legal team argues that previous leaks have already damaged his reputation beyond repair. The trial is scheduled for March 9, 2026 in New York, though that date could change depending on pre-trial motions and legal disputes over admissible evidence. In the meantime, both sides will continue gathering documents, interviewing witnesses, and preparing their strategies. Judge Lyman's warning about public statements could change how both legal teams approach the media in the coming months. If the court decides to enforce stricter confidentiality rules, we may see fewer leaks and a more controlled legal battle played out in the courtroom rather than on social media. I think this case so far seems to be in Justin Baldoni's favor, at least in terms of how the legal battle is unfolding. The judge's warning about public statements suggests that both sides may be forced to keep their arguments within the courtroom rather than fighting through media narratives, something that could work against Blake Lively, whose allegations gained traction largely through press coverage. I think Baldoni's strategic move to launch a website with text messages and emails has also shifted the conversation, as it provides evidence that challenges the timeline and details of Lively's claims. If these documents hold up under legal scrutiny, I think they could weaken Lively's case and support Baldoni's argument that he's being unfairly targeted. Additionally, the fact that Lively and Ryan Reynolds are now pushing to have Baldoni's lawsuit dismissed suggests that they are on the defensive, while Baldoni's legal team appears confident in moving forward. While it's still too early to predict the final outcome, I think the pre-trial phase has given Baldoni the upper hand, at least from a legal standpoint. However, trials can be unpredictable, and everything will depend on what evidence is allowed in court and how both sides argue their case.